5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're now tuned into the 411 podcast and reading Between the Wines, powered by the Black Diamond Consultations Network. More than a podcast, this is a sanctuary for self-discovery, healing, and personal growth. Here, we explore what it means to live debt-free, not just financially, but spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Every episode is part of a journey across our weekly mentorship series: Spiritual Sundays, Mental Mondays, Transformational Tuesdays, Wind Down Wednesdays, Coaching Sessions Thursdays, and Financial Fridays. Each day holds space for wisdom, clarity, and real conversation. So grab your journal, pour your glass, and prepare to go beyond the surface. Because here, we don't just talk, we transform. And now, here's your guide through it all, entrepreneur, mentor, and founder of Black Diamond Consultations, Laren Gaines.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in. Welcome to the 411 podcast. It's Transformational Tuesday, and this is part of the mentorship series. So, welcome on in. For those of you that are out there, I want to say thank you so much for joining. If you can please do me a favor and please like, comment, share, subscribe, tag a friend, text a friend, invite them in, because you never know what type of breakthrough moments that you'll get coming, on the show, listening in on the show. Speaking of breakthrough moments, I must say I was blown away by last night speaking to Mr. Neil Jones Jr. from United Advertising. It had been such a gap in between time since we spoke to each other. And the only word that I could describe last night was growth from both parties, just absolute growth. And this show has grown as well. So, speaking of Queen Dawn Spirit, of course, last night with Neil. And as I just reflect, I was, it's only been 2 days, but I was just reflecting, and just the growth and the evolution of this podcast is just amazing. And again, I take no credit. I want to thank all of my guests who help, come through and support. But most importantly, I have to thank my executive producer, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, for allowing me to have this platform, allowing me to come out here and, do what I love to do, and that is connect, you know, teach, educate, on this level. And I just have to say thank you. So we have episode 54, fast food, fast debt. We're going to speak about this. I mentioned, in previous episodes that the things that we speak about here on this show is real life experiences. Whether someone's writing in, whether I'm reminiscing about something that I've been through, in my past, or, I've had a conversation with someone who sparks, the flavor of the conversation. Listen, I've been there. I've been there, and some of these things, they hit home. So I enjoy, speaking, dissecting these things, and going through it, because you know, it helps me as well. So our special guest tonight is supposed to be Melbourne, but he is from India. So there might be a little disconnect as far as the time. And this happens when I have people from overseas come on the show, but I'm going to stay very positive, and we are just going to continue to flow through on the show tonight. If Melbourne comes through tonight, it's just going to be the icing on the cake, but we are still going to have a phenomenal episode here tonight as we dig through, especially on a topic like this. Shout out to everyone out there. I see you on D Live. I see you on Twitch. I see you on YouTube. Please go ahead and share this video with someone. Share the podcast with someone. We still gonna have an amazing episode regardless of what happens. But again, yeah, Melbourne is from India. So what a great topic tonight, right? We speaking about, fast food and, how the love of fast food, the convenience of it can put us into a situation financially. So I was going to get the perspective from Melbourne as far as what is it like in his country, because everyone goes through the same thing. This is, what we experience here in the US, but other countries, they, have some of the same situations going on. If not, I think US is its own little category. We take things to the 10th power. Even our food portions are, huge compared to some other countries. If you go somewhere else and eat and you look at the size of the meals, you look sometimes and say, is that it? But over here in the US, we got to do everything big. We got to, you know, take it to the next level. So I wanted to get his insight on that as far as, the food and the culture. So that's the avenue that I was headed down tonight. So, will you believe that it's the last day of September? We're going to rock in on October 1st tomorrow. We have author Birdman 313. Excuse me, let me back this up. We have author, poet Birdman 313 coming tomorrow for Reading Between the Wines. I had traveled all the way to Cream Ridge, New Jersey to get the special bottle of wine for tomorrow night, which is the legendary, it was titled the legendary almond berry wine. It had been years since I sampled almond berry, and it's just amazing. I sampled it this past Sunday. I purchased the bottle, and I'm going to dig deep into it tomorrow for Reading Between the Wines. So stick around for author Birdman 313, who will be in the building tomorrow. What's going on, Miss SOS? I see you out there. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to go through this list here. Of course, I want to thank all of my guests for coming on this week, making Restoration Part 2 what it is. And it's an amazing experience so far. And we're just getting started. And I'm so overjoyed with just the outcome, the response so far. People have been loving the replays. So if you are out there, the best thing that you can do to help support Black Diamond Consultations, 411 Podcast, Reading Between the Wines, is just get the word out. Thank you so much to everyone out there on social media who's been liking, commenting, and sharing. I definitely do appreciate it. That is the best thing that you can do to help support this movement, is to share the video, post it on your stories, whatever you can do. I would definitely would appreciate that. I want to give a very special thank you to Miss SOS. Thank you for rocking with the 411 podcast since day one. I definitely do appreciate you as well. Mr. Alex Coquito, all the way from Puerto Rico. Queen Dawn Spirit. Again, go ahead and watch that replay from Sunday. Queen Dawn Spirit joined me for Spiritual Sunday, and she brought her business partner, Marcus Johnson, as well. So check out that replay. Last night for Mental Monday, we had Neil Jones Jr. from United Advertising. Melvin, thank you so much. I'm waiting on you to show up. He's this special guest for tonight. Tomorrow, I have author Birdman 313. I gotta get that together. Author slash poet. Yeah, we definitely going to study up and get that together. Mr. Jonathan Martin Ives, Maddie Lee Mars, she joined us for the first part of Restoration. She is a Canadian recording artist, Maddie Lee Mars. Ian West also joined us as well for part one. What was that? That was May? Yeah, I think I did part one in May. Another artist, Ian West. My niece, appreciate everything that I do on social media. Thank you. Who else do we have? Uh, West Virginia Uncommon Place podcast. Thank you for helping the 411 podcast, Reading Between the Wines, with your words of encouragement and giving me insights behind the scenes as well. Um, Amazing individual. We have Danny L from My Survivor Voice podcast. R&B singer Donnie Nicole, all the way from New York. We have Michelle from Plan Your Romance, Lyd and Mari, Miss Sophie Davis, all the way from the UK, Miss Shanti Refuge. Shanti Refuge is a certified mental health coach, and we have partnered, and she has helped me as well, with a couple of business deals in 2025. So I want to say a very special thank you to Miss Shanti Refuge. Y'all go ahead and check her out at Shanti Refuge Journals. That is her handle name on Instagram. Go ahead and check out Miss Shanti Refuge. She has a wonderful story, and she'll just basically she keeps it real. Put it that way. We have Scars of Survival magazine, and also I want to thank my cousin Raquel. I had to clear my throat. I had to mute it. I'm sure y'all didn't want to hear that. I love these little buttons. She will. And also from Facebook, shout out to people out there on Facebook. Facebook has been acting a little interesting lately. I'm not going to say too much, but they've been acting a little interesting lately. But when it comes to all of this social media stuff, let me tell you all, I'm not phased, not one bit. Miss Shambrika Lachey, all the way from the world of Facebook over there. But yeah, when it comes to this social media stuff, I've learned after doing this all of these years that it just comes in phases. And I'm not getting caught up in the games that is played in social media worlds. I just stay in my lane and I understand that I do what I do and it'll all come back full circle. I'm not getting caught up in the hype and yeah, I'm not doing any of that. So, yes, I gave you all a quick recap of how we went through so far this week, and we're still going to continue to rock on. Night one for Spiritual Sunday, Miss Queen Dawn Spirit. Go ahead and check out that replay. Night number two, Mental Monday, Neil Jones Jr. from United Advertising. And we're here for Transformational Tuesday. And now we're going to get into this. Y'all ready for some real talk? I'm not going to keep y'all long. We're going to do what we need to do and keep it moving. And yeah, that's a song that I'm gonna save for another day. I almost brought it out tonight, but I'm gonna save that for another day. But the song of the day that we have tonight is "I Just Can't" by Faith Evans, released in 1996 off of the High School High soundtrack. So the song starts off with Faith saying, I just can't hide, I just can't help the feeling, the way that I feel inside." But we remix it here. And I have to say, but in reality, I'm here to say that yes, you can. You can. You can help it. And I want you to think about the things that you say that you just can't do. Because I've learned how to watch the things that I say, and it's very important, careful what we speak over ourselves. Because what we speak is the recipe that shows up in our reality. I'm going to say that again. What we speak out of our mouths, what we say, is the recipe that shows up in our reality. I've learned to watch what I say. And listen, this is coming from someone who was my own worst enemy. I was absolutely my own worst enemy. I spoke negative about a lot of things. I was very pessimistic throughout the whole process. My previous life, very pessimistic. And looking back now, being the person that I am here today, it's so interesting that people still put up with me, even though they were encouraging me, they were trying to uplift me, but I wouldn't even want to mess with me today. And I pray for the people who used to rock with me back then, including my family too. Sometimes I can just be so disgusted looking at the way that I used to live. Like, I get it. I'm surprised y'all even wanted to be around me. But in reality, the reason why these people were around me is because they love me. Because that's the only explanation for it, because it was really interesting. Very negative, very pessimistic, always ready to crash a party and turn it upside down. If I saw people who were happy, I wasn't happy until I made everybody miserable. But, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say that I am amazed at what neuroplasticity can do. Through the grace of God, I was granted the strength and the courage to change my thought process. Now, for someone who used to always walk around saying, I just can't, I can't, that used to be the first thing that would come out of my mouth is, I can't. Today, I say that I can, and I am whatever that I say I am. Whatever it is that God says about me, that's exactly what it is, because my Father has the final say. I have removed the phrases such as I just can't and I hope, and especially this one, I'll try, because I've learned that either you're going to do it or you're not. There is no try. When you say that you're going to try to do something, all you're doing is giving yourself an excuse not to do what you know you're supposed to do, so that you can just walk up to somebody and say, well, I tried. So when we start to use words such as hope, try, you are putting yourself in a bad situation. I hope all is well. No, everything is beautiful. Everything is wonderful. I am amazing. I am powerful. I am love. I am light. I am happiness. I am joy. Learn to speak over your life the things that you want to show up in your reality. Because what you speak today, trust and believe that it's going to show up in the future. What you speak, what you say, what you claim over your life, over your world, trust and believe that it will show up in the future. I'm where I'm at here today because of the things that I spoke. I didn't understand it at the time, but I'm exactly where I am right here today because of the things that I spoke over my life in 2020. As I was able to get with myself, as I was able to evaluate, as I was able to think and look at my life, I started to connect the dots and I said, oh, there we go. Yep. This is exactly why you are here. Because do you remember when you said you wanted this removed? You wish that this happened. You want that to happen. You can't stand this. Over my dead body will this. Here I am here today. So I've learned to take certain words out of my vocabulary. Now, even this week, I was listening to some old clip, Dick Gregory. Absolutely love him. Rest in peace. And I love listening to his interviews. And one that has me, you know, thinking, and I have been, replaying it and watching it, is when he speaks about hope. Somebody says, oh, well, I hope that works. Well, what did they do that for? In good old Dick Gregory fashion, he let him have it. He explained what hope was. And this week, that has been one of the challenges, to completely remove that from my vocabulary. I've already removed the word try. That, we don't do that. Um, I can't, that's been removed. We definitely don't do that. But every now and then I'll find myself slipping up with the word hope. So again, I'm just keeping it real and sharing my real life experiences, and that's one thing that I've been focusing on, removing that word hope, because I know what the outcome is going to be. I know who I am, and I know what I'm capable of doing, and removing the word hope is definitely something that is going to you know, happen. So those are the words that I take out of my vocabulary. And I want to say we have to be very careful and learn how to separate ourselves from those who don't see things the way that God sees it. Now, and when I say that, I mean about you. We already know, maybe we don't know, and that's part of the problem. But if you haven't what God says and thinks about you, you know, that's one thing. When you understand and you know, that's a beautiful thing. Some of us don't know, and we don't know how God truly feels about us, and we walk around feeling the exact opposite. But just remember the things that I spoke: beautiful, joy, amazing, happiness, peace. Those are all from God. So if we understand that and we know that, we have to be very cautious about linking up and getting connected with people who don't see yourself as the same way that God sees you and feels about you, if that makes sense. Because you might feel all of those amazing, beautiful, joy, happiness, peace, love. You might feel that. But once you start linking up to somebody who is not really feeling that about you, and they want to bring out the negative and they want to try to show and tell and make you feel the exact opposite, we have to be very careful about that. Separate yourselves from those who don't see things the way that God sees it about you. Don't limit yourself or dumb yourself down or dumb your situation down just to make someone else's situation brighter. Like I said, if we're going to shine, we're going to shine and we're going to do this thing together and get to the point where we walk around and we don't use the words, I can't, I hope, I'll try. So there we go. Song of the day, I just can't. And I don't even want to say that because you want to know, I can. But what I will say is that I can't listen to the nonsense anymore. I can't listen to what you have to say anymore. I'm not going to, subject myself to whatever foolishness that you have going on in your world, attitudes, disrespectful tones, mean mugging, whatever the case may be. That's the type of stuff that I just can't do today. So we're going to move on from saying the words, I just can't. But sometimes when we know that we want better, when we know we're capable of doing better, when we can separate the BS from the truth, once you start to open up and see, okay, this one over here, oh, I got you. Yeah, I can't do that over there. Anyway, song of the day, I Just Can't by Faith Evans, and released in 1996 off of the High School High soundtrack. Miss SOS says, I don't like the need. You need to. It's a trigger for me. I make suggestions. You know what? That is very powerful too, because I guess coming from someone who used to be a control freak, and in my own way, I still like to control my world. And that's a good way to put it. I still like to control my world. But before I wanted to control my world, I wanted to control your world. I wanted to control their world. And I'm not going to get into where that came from, but I just always had to be in control. And I wasn't happy until you did things exactly the way Laren wanted you to do it. And that was the incorrect way to live, because God has not put us on this earth to have control and dominion over another human being. Now, all of the animals, the birds, the fish, this, that, the next, the other, absolutely, he says, it's yours. This is my gift to you. Conquer, control, and you have dominion over all of those things. But nowhere, and again, I have not read my Bible from top to bottom yet, and I'm still a work in progress. But as far as my knowledge is concerned, I know from what I know that there's nothing in that book that says he gave us control over another human being. So when you tell somebody that they need to do something or you have to do something, I used to say that too. Or else, and you start putting ultimatums on there, then yeah, that's a problem. So SOS, I know exactly where you're coming from, because I would let you have it. I would let you have it in a way that was just so disrespectful. But you know what? I can sort of like almost laugh today, and it's not like a, just cracking up laughing, but I'm coming from from a place of just peace and gratitude, because that's no longer me. And I can look back and use it as a teachable moment, and possibly help somebody else break through so that they don't make the same mistakes that I've made. And that's where the joy and the fulfillment comes. Like something that was so negative, I can almost smile and sit in peace and know that it's going to be all right, because I'm helping somebody else break through. So thank you for that. We were supposed to have Mr. Author Melvin come in tonight, but I don't believe that that's going to happen. And it's all good, because we still going to go through. I want to speak about fast food, which equals, in some cases, fast debt, the hidden cost of convenience. So I see a few folks out there. If you can light up the chat for me, please, and just let me know what your favorite fast food places are. Let's just start there. Maybe some place in the past that you used to frequent, and maybe you don't anymore. Let me know what your favorite fast food place is. We're going to talk about. I'm going to try not to say any names because I don't want to have any issues that way, but just put that out there. I will tell you that in my past life, I love to go to places that served chicken sandwiches. Now, I don't eat meat today, but any place that served any type of chicken sandwiches or chicken tenders, I was absolutely all over it. Now, I have been told that they put certain things in the fast food to keep us addicted to it. Whatever chemicals, whatever concoction, whatever sorcery, whatever nonsense they put in most of these fast food places that are almost on every corner, I was told that there's something in there to keep us addicted to it and make us want to go back and have more. Now, this is coming from somebody who used to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack in someone's drive-through. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack through the drive-through, and it first started off with a cup of coffee. Back then, it was $2. Now you can probably get a cup of coffee for about maybe almost $4. I was doing that about 7 days a week. Didn't own a coffee pot. If I did, I didn't use it. See, these are the things that I want us to start to think about. Coffee. I know some people love, and that's the main thing right there, coffee. And I do believe that the prices are going up for coffee. If they haven't already, we should see some increases shortly. Just think about it. A cup of coffee, almost $4, depending on what place you go to. See, I like the light roast coffee, the donut shop coffee. I'm sure you can read between the lines on that one. That was my favorite place. There's another coffee shop that's really bold and dark, and I don't like that one. But coffee is a big thing for a lot of Americans. Lots of money is dumped into the coffee industry. On top of it, coffee has something in it that will keep us pretty much addicted, wanting more, which is caffeine. Now, I have been a month without coffee. Prior to that, I had went without coffee for over a year. Now, I just shared with you how I would start off my day with coffee. I'm sure you know exactly what place I used to drive through, their drive through. I would go to them and I would say, "Can I please have whatever flavors they had? Any type of flavor that is out there, trust and believe that I signed up for it. French vanilla, hazelnut, Irish cream, amaretto, caramel, coconut, whatever you want." That was the problem because it was loaded with sugar. And I also told them, please put extra, extra, extra cream. I was just having this conversation with someone today. Please put extra, extra, extra cream in there and go ahead and put extra, extra, extra sugar in there. So you know what was going on. I was addicted to the caffeine. I was addicted to the sugar. And what do you think happened the minute that I started to back off of that? All type dude. I don't even know how I even got past that. Headaches, which was something that was always a problem growing up as a teenager, started in my teenage years, to where I would get terrible migraines to the fact where I would have to go to sleep in order to make them go away. And if I decided to stay up and thought that I was going to be able to push through it and muscle through it, I would pretty much get sick and like throw up all over the place from a migraine. Couldn't eat. The smell of food would make me just want to like go off on somebody. Like, don't try to feed me. That's not the problem. The extreme lights would like bother me, and I would pretty much waste my half of my day because I would have to go home and go to sleep. And the next thing you know, I'm waking up at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and you just go back to bed after that. So I see some comments here. I'm just sharing my little, you know, coffee issue here that I had. No longer anymore because today I drink hot lemon water. And I said, if I'm going to be addicted to anything, I'm going to be addicted to Jesus. Like, I don't need, um, a cup of coffee to make me feel better. Like, when I wake up in the morning, I don't want to have to say, oh, this cup of coffee, oh, I need my coffee, because if I don't have my coffee, then I'm going to go off on anybody. No, I'm going to be, fired up and ready to go for God first thing in the morning and ask Him for the strength, the courage, the wisdom, everything that I need to, get myself on track. Not a cup of coffee. um, Burning Sky says, I'm a dark coffee, no sugar or cream kind of gal. I don't know how you do it, because during my coffee is healthy for you. I want to tell you that if you do it exactly how you just said, dark coffee, no sugar or cream. If you have a cup of coffee like that daily, that has some health benefits. And you say you love making traditional coffee, but I don't use the pods. Oh, so you're talking about just a regular, ground up coffee. Once they started coming out with K cups and Keurigs, it was over for me. That's what I used to do, and all the different flavors, and yeah, it was over. That's a game changer too, a Keurig. But yeah, so the coffee issue, the caffeine, and then I spoke about how I used to be in someone's drive-through 3 times a day, 3 to 4 times a day. And if it's accurate, they put stuff in the food to keep us addicted and have us wanting to go back. And now today, I'll visit a fast food restaurant every now and then. And when I say fast food, I'm talking about the part where you get in a car and you drive around the building, not places like I guess you can consider pizza fast food. If you have to walk into the building, I say yeah, it could be fast food, but it's not as, for this case scenario that we're speaking about, not as I'm trying to use my words wisely. I want to say harsh as the ones where you drive around a building. Even some of those, yes, you can walk in and come out, but the quicker that you're able to get that food, I believe that there's more of an issue. Now, if you got to wait a little bit, you got some of your Mexican places. I'm not going to name the ones that you walk in. I don't believe they have a drive-through. I don't believe I've ever seen it, but you walk into this place. It's fresh food, but you're going to wait a little bit. You got to go through the line. You got to tell them how you want. It's a little healthier option. That type of restaurant, I really wouldn't consider that fast food. Starts with a C, and I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm sure you can figure it out. But there's a couple places out there like that, and it's fresh food. You see them making it. I wouldn't consider it fast food, but some people might. I'll call it I'll call it medium food. And then there's slow food, which is what you cook at home. We'll do it that way. Fast food, medium, slow. SOS says coffee is sexy to me, especially if you have a special someone to share the moment with. Some foods are sexy too. Oh hell, I'm a tourist. We're foodies. It's interesting that you said that because when I stopped drinking coffee, I was still in a relationship. And I will tell you that that was one of the biggest things that I used to fight with because I made up my mind that I was going to stop drinking coffee. But I realized that the connection would be lost because I believe that coffee, wine, things like that, if you're sharing it with somebody, especially someone you love, someone you're intimate with, I think that is something that you bond over it. So it's interesting that you said that because before my relationship was over, I made up my mind to not drink coffee because remember I told you I would go to this coffee shop every day. But not only was I paying for myself, I was paying for someone else as well. So $2, $4. Basically, you're thinking about maybe $5 a day just on coffee. Now times that by 7 times a week. And then now think about that. Now think about if you were to get up and you were to go to your local grocery store and you were to buy yourself, the ground coffee and come home and make it yourself. But I've tried that as well. But here's the thing, there's something in that coffee, there's something in that ingredients, there's something in that experience that even when you try to make it at home, it does not taste like the coffee shop. Same thing with some of these fast food places. You can say, hey, I want to go home and I want to try to, you know, recreate or do something different so that we can save money. And let's go home and try to do it. And then we go home and we try to do it. And then we realize that, it's missing this, it's missing that. We don't have this ingredient. I would like to know what they do to get the results that they get because we just can't get it at home. Back to what I was saying. I was told that they put something in the food to make us addicted to it. Could that be the problem? Could that be the situation that has most people in debt? Now, here's one thing that I would have to say food is very important. We have to eat in order to live. I also do know that food was one of the first sins. It was the cause of the first sin. One of the first sins. Food. Lack. wanting something that you can't have. That was the first issue. Wanting something that you can't have, what you were told that you can't eat. No coincidence that it was food. Now, look at what we have going on in our world today. If the majority of people listening to the 411 podcast, Reading Between the Wines, did this one little exercise, go back a month. Go back a month. Add up every single expense that you paid, anything that subtracted from your bank account. Add it up. We have our rent, we have our car, car insurance. Those things, take those off the table. You have to have a place to live, so take that off the table. You have a car that you got to drive. All of that great stuff, I get it. Take that off the table. We can put that back later on down the road, but right now we're trying to get to the root cause. Everything else, you put your light bill, you put your utilities, all of those things, you add that in. Add everything up. You would be surprised at what the number one expense is on most people's budget. It would be food. I can almost guarantee that if we did a poll, the number one issue, take out housing, take out car, the number one expense would be food. Now, if we dig a little bit deeper to figure out, is it from a restaurant or is it food that you purchase from a grocery store? That's the biggest thing right there. Look at your food expenses. Figure out, is it from something, an ingredient that you had to purchase from the grocery store to make it yourself? Or is it something that you picked up from a restaurant? You'd be surprised. Now, I also want to put out here fast food, fast debt for convenience. More so the fast food, not the debt. There are times where I will have someone prepare food for me. Not necessarily fast food, but I'll go someplace that has food already prepared and ready to go, grab and go. And that's out of convenience. If you have a hectic schedule, if you're working multiple jobs, you're running from here to there, sometimes you may not have the time to cook food at home the way you would if you had the time. One thing I know that we can't get back is time. And I do know that time is more valuable than money. So there are some times where, that even rhymes, there are some times where it makes sense to just go and pick up something. But the next part of that is, what are you picking up? Are you picking up fast food or are you picking up medium food? Because sometimes these new places that are popping up, the medium food is the healthier alternative. Now, for me, and this is probably going to go off track of Transformational Tuesday, but that's okay. For me, my time is more valuable. You can't get time back. Some people say, oh, well, I'd rather have the money. Today, I'd rather have the time. Yes, the money is great, but I'd rather have the time. And that, because if you get the time, you can get the money. That's a whole nother situation. If you get enough time, trust and believe you're going to have enough time to figure it out how to get the money. Time is more valuable than money, because if any of us were on our deathbed and somebody gave us $1 million, or they gave us more time to live, what do you think most people are going to pick? You're on your deathbed, someone hands you $1 million, several $1 million, whatever, be a couple, or they say, we're going to grant you more time to live. What do you think most people would pick? And then that's how you know time is more valuable than money. So when it comes to convenience, there are certain times where it makes sense. People who wash their cars, people who do excessive cooking and cleaning in their home. These are all some things, and I know this is going off topic, but these are all some things that should be evaluated. For certain people, the time is more valuable. There are a couple tasks that I do on a weekly basis that I say, you know what? Once we get that breakthrough moment, I'm going to hire somebody to do this, because I absolutely do not want to do this. I'll tell you one thing. For me, the first thing that I'm doing is hiring somebody to do my laundry for me. I just don't want to do it. I feel that I could take my time and put it somewhere else and get so much of a return on my investment. Call me whatever you want to call me, but for me to be sitting there washing, folding clothes, that is the task that, nah, you're good. I'm out. Somebody else can do it. You know, another thing that I don't want to do? Cut grass, shovel snow. I think I have done enough in my lifetime that, yeah, we're just not doing it. Those are things that, if you cut back on certain things, now you'll have enough money to be able to hire somebody to do some of those things. And that's the first thing that most people are going to say. Just like the song, Faith Evans, I Just Can't. That is the first thing that most people are going to say. Well, I can't afford this. I can't do this, or I can't do that. But I submit to you that maybe you should look at your spending habits. Maybe you should look at your world and ask yourself, do I really need this, or do I really need that? Because in most cases, if you cut out some certain things in certain aspects of your world, that will then free up for you to be able to afford to do the other. And then once you do the other, now you have time on your hands. And if you value your time and you do the right thing with your time, all of a sudden that will click and open up a door for maybe you to be able to get more money. And then you see what's happening. But I'm going to take it back to the fast food, fast debt. A lot of the issues that we experience comes from the quality and the value of the food that we eat. And it's this whole snowball effect. Now, I read a book from Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. And no coincidence that food is in that book. And that is one of the number one things that the enemy will use to keep us down. And if the enemy can keep us down with heartburn, stomach issues, um, all types of stuff, he that book is interesting. You really should read it. And coming from the enemy's perspective, he lays it out, all of the things that he does, all of the health problems that people get when it comes to food. it's all done on purpose to keep us lethargic, to keep us slow, to keep us down. It's interesting how something that we call fast food makes you anything but fast. It does the exact opposite and puts you into debt and then puts you in different types of debt because not only is it financial because you know how much things cost. I remember, and of course inflation and everything else, but I remember that when I was like a preteen, teenager, just 11, 12, getting into the 13s, you can go to one of these restaurants, which I'm not going to name. They have like arches. I'm sure you can figure out golden arches and stuff. Um, we used to be able to get a value meal for like $5, $6. This is the late 90s. Now, fast forward, you go to that same place. Instead of dropping that $5 bill, now, and it's not just that place, it's any place. When you go out to eat, fast food stuff like that, just carry $20 with you, and just drop a 20 because that's basically what it is. But not only will these types of places keep you in debt financially, but the debt will start to show up physically. And then it'll show up mentally as well because when you can't have, because you know, I'm spending too much, I got to cut back, I got to do this. When you can't have, and it is time to eat medium food, or it is time, sometimes the medium food could be even more expensive too because it's higher quality, but you got to pay for what you want. When it's time to eat home cooked meals, which we want to call slow cooked meals, slow food, fast food, when it's time to eat the slow food, sometimes we don't even want it because our taste buds are so jacked up from having all of that fast food and whatever chemicals and whatever they put in there to make it taste however it tastes. The mental aspect of it comes and we have an attitude or it doesn't taste this way or it's a whole big old issue. And I fought with this thing for years. Like I said, I was in somebody's drive through 3 to 4 times a week. Excuse me, 3 to 4 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sometimes a snack. And then I would come home to a home cooked meal and wouldn't even want it. Same scenario that I just spoke about. So I would say go through the challenge, go through your last month's bills, expenses, whatever you want to call it, total everything up, take out the big expenses because we got to have a place to stay. Our car, that's a whole nother story too, whether you have a car payment or not. I'm not going to get into that tonight. That's a whole nother issue. Let's just take the car and the housing off the table for now. Line up everything else. Most likely, the food is going to be at the top of the list. We got to eat. But now the next question is how are you eating? Is it coming from a restaurant or is it coming from a grocery store? Because not that you're doing great if one is versus the other, because maybe somebody doesn't spend a whole bunch of money at the grocery store. Maybe they prefer someone to prepare their foods for them. But the next question is, what does that look like? But regardless of the situation, food probably will be at the top of the list. Just want to throw that out there. When I go through the coaching scenarios with most people, this is probably one of the biggest issues, people wanting to eat out at restaurants all the time and then being able to pull back, people needing to have that cup of coffee every single day versus making it at home. So I'm going to throw out some questions there. And again, I don't have my special guest here tonight, so these will be some rhetorical questions. If you're watching the replay, if you want to chime in tonight as well, you most certainly can. Otherwise, um, use these for your own. Question number one: what does the word transformation mean to you on a personal level? What does that word transformational, excuse me, what does that word transformation mean to you on a personal level? I will say transformation for me was when I knew that things needed to change. I would always tell myself every single year, this is going to be the summer. This is going to be the season. This is going to be the year that I actually do it. And then, once that season left, once the summer left, and I realized that I hadn't made any changes at all, then I would feel even worse about the situation. I knew that there was a big transformation that took place when one season, one summer turned around and I looked back and said, "Oh my God, Laren, you actually did it. All of these years, 5 years in a row of you saying that you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and you didn't do anything, but now finally you did." That's true transformation, because the person that you were before no longer exists today. That's what the word transformation means for me. What does transformation mean to you on a personal level? Next question: can you share a pivotal moment when you knew real change had happened in your life? Can you share a pivot, pivotal moment when you knew that real change had taken place in your life? Now, on this one here, I'll answer this. I'll say that real change happened in my life when I was no longer concerned what somebody else thought about me. And that's real deep, because majority of my life I was overly concerned what somebody else thought, said, this, that, the next, the other. The minute, please feel free to chime in. You can text me as well, 609-210-98. If you want to answer some of these questions with me, we can go through them tonight, 609-210-98. If you don't want to put it in the chat, you most certainly can text me as well. But when I was no longer concerned what somebody else thought about me, because majority of my life, it was, what did they say? When you told them that, what was the reaction? I was always concerned about what somebody else thought. And most of the time, it was probably things that I was making up in my own mind, some delusional, weird type of scenarios and situations that I would pretty much make up and then make it a real thing. Because remember, what we focus on, what we speak, what we think about shows up in our world. It's reality. So even though that these people weren't thinking about any of these things, the time that I kept speaking it and bringing it up over and over and over again and rehashing and going through the same scenario in my mind and in my conversations, what do you think happened? So real change for me took place when that wasn't even a topic anymore. I could care less. I would just move and do things in life Not overly concerned with what the outcome on somebody else's end was. I was just focusing on what the end goal was for me. What pivotal moments, I'll make sure I go back and say that right. Can you share a pivotal moment when you knew that real change had taken place in your life? The next question that I have is, what daily habits or practices keep you aligned with your higher purpose? This is a would have been a good question for Queen Dawn Spirit. What daily habits or practices keep you aligned with your higher purpose? For myself, I would say that everything starts with self. That is one of the biggest teachings that I've learned from my Buddhist mentor. Everything starts with self. So before I even think about doing anything for anybody else, I have to remember that everything starts with self, because prior to that, the old version of myself would jump up first thing in the morning and would do backflips, cartwheels, somersaults, whatever you want to call it, for everybody else. And then halfway through the scenario, halfway through the situation, all of a sudden a light bulb would go off, realizing that, hey, wait a minute, you're sitting here running around like a lunatic for somebody else, like our girl Janet Jackson. I had to ask myself, what have you done for me lately? You ain't do nothing, because you're sitting here worrying about everybody else. One of the biggest things that I've learned is that everything starts with self. If you do not take care of yourself, there is no way that you will be any good to anybody else. You can't take care, you can't help anybody else out. But like I said, the old version of myself would do backflips, run myself ragged, and then halfway through doing whatever I was doing, I would catch an attitude and be like, this ain't right. And then now it's too late at this moment, because you've already committed, you've already overly committed. You have yourself in this situation, and then now half the day is gone. You have all of these commitments that you signed up for just to try to be a people pleaser or get along to get along, get in where you can fit in. And this is stuff that you don't even want to do. You could care less about these things. This is not who you are. This is what they are and who they are, but you signed up for it. And now what? I have so much peace, so much joy, and so much happiness in my world when I realize that everything starts with self. Do things that work for you first. And then once you take care of yourself, then you can help and you can take care of other people. That is a daily habit. Focusing on myself, making sure that self care is at the top of my list, putting God first before anybody else, asking for direction, asking for guidance, knowing full well that I am not in control of this situation. I'm telling you, everything starts with self. That is an amazing, y'all know I say it a lot, because that definitely has changed my life. Sitting here reflecting on it. Listen, it's 2020 was what, 5 years ago, but it feels sometimes as if it was just yesterday. Next question. How do you handle setbacks and still move forward with a transformational mindset? How do you handle setbacks and still move forward with a transformational mindset. I think it was Marcus when Queen Dawn Spirit was on. I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but I think he said life is going to, if it's right, if it's a, he said life is going to life. Things are going to happen in life. I had a setback, which I'm not even going to say it was a setback. It was a setup last year. I was going through something last year in the summer. I think I was actually recording the podcast at the time. And I'm like, are you serious that I have to go through what I have to go through now? And I'm, got all of these podcasts, shows set up, and I have to go through this at this moment. But I still had to move forward with that transformational mindset. I still had to look forward to what the end result would be instead of being the old version of myself, which would have been calling this person up, rehashing whatever situation that I was going on, vibrating on a lower frequency, bringing and pulling somebody else into my drama, finding somebody else who has the same type of scenario or the same situation that I have, which sometimes is called trauma bonding. Just finding somebody to be able to complain with, which will keep you in a lower vibrational state. But instead, I had to connect with my higher power and I had to move forward and look at the end result. You have to see it before you see it. And by you seeing it before you see it, it becomes your reality. Now, you got to be careful what you see before you see it, because you can see positive things before you see it, or you can see negative things, and there you go. But we're talking about a transformational mindset, which is transforming your mind from what it used to be. So if you were anything like me and you used to think negative, used to think, from a doubtful, from a pessimistic standpoint, to transform your mind into change, now we need to think from an optimistic standpoint, from a positive. How do you handle setbacks and still move forward with a transformational mindset? I had a minor, and again, I'm not going to call these things setbacks, but I'm going to call them set up for something greater because now I think differently. Something minor happened just last week. But the whole entire time, as I was going through whatever I was going through, I said, you know what? This is the outcome. This is what the outcome is going to be. Instead of, oh, I hope, oh, this, oh, that old worries, calling people up and going back and forth and telling people what you hope it's going to be, or I hope that this isn't this, or I hope that that's not. No, I said, that's it. This is it. And I left it alone. That's a transformational mindset, because the old version of me would have been doing the exact opposite. Having an attitude for no reason. Most of the day, why you look like that? Waiting for somebody to ask me, why is your face tore up like that? Why do you look like that? So then I can open up the floodgates and then complain about whatever is going on instead of thinking in a more positive way. All of the complaining, all of the nonsense and the BS that I used to speak about, what do you think showed up in my world? Everything that I focused on, everything that I said I didn't want at the time showed up. There's something about that. You got to be very careful, and I have to learn to be very careful about saying and verbalizing what I don't want, because sometimes when you talk so much and say what you don't want in your world, that's exactly what shows up. So even sometimes saying what you don't want, we got to be careful with that, because even saying what you don't want, you're taking that time, you're taking that energy, and you're putting it towards something that you don't want, and therefore you're focusing on it, as opposed to just thinking about the opposite of what you don't want, just thinking about what you want. I know that that might sound interesting, but I would always focus on and be real aggressive about it. Oh, this is what I don't want. This is what I'm not going to put up with. And trust and believe that if this happens, I would have this whole thing like laid out. I was ready to lay somebody out. Had it all lined up. But anyway, next question. What advice would you give someone who feels stuck and unsure how to begin their transformation? What advice would you give to someone who feels stuck and unsure how to begin their transformation? I would take that back to the first the first part when I say everything starts with self. Someone who feels stuck and unsure how to begin the transformation, I feel that they need to do some soul searching, and they need to get with themselves, and they need to pray, they need to meditate and ask for guidance. That would be my advice, because that's what I know how to do. That's what I've done, and that's how I got to where I am here today, is because when everyone else turned their back on me, when everyone else did the 180, I only had one person to turn to, and that's who I turned to. And I asked for strength, I asked for courage, I asked for wisdom, I asked for guidance. I just said, you know what? I spent most of these years running around here thinking that I knew what I was doing. And clearly, at the state that I was in at that moment, I did not know what I was doing. So I'm just going to step back, and I'm going to let you go ahead and run and do everything that you need to do. And I'm just going to sit back. Now, today, when I step into situations, I say, God, more of you and less of me. In this situation, because you know how I am, sometimes I don't come the right way at people. So do me a favor, please. More of you and less of me in this situation, because you're going to know when Laren gets involved. I've done a pretty good job of letting people know what that's like. I'm tired of giving people a piece of my mind. So through your help and through your guidance, I'm now able to give people the peace of my mind. I don't need to give them a piece of my mind, but the peace of my mind is different. So that's the advice that I would give. Everything starts with self. Start to cut off some distractions. We have a lot of different distractions out there in this world, and a lot of us are tapped in, a lot of us are plugged in, a lot of us are locked in, however we want to call it. But sometimes all of that plugged in, locked in, it's no good for us. So start to look at your circle, start to look at your world, start to look at your sphere, and figure out what you can do to make it easier for you. Put it that way. Because a lot of the stuck and unsure, and we don't know what to do when we feel like we're trapped and we're overwhelmed, a lot of that is due to our own doing, because we want to be plugged in, we want to be tapped in, we want to be here, we want to go there, we want to get in where we could fit in, we want to get along to get along, and a lot of that can cause us some issues. And yeah. So if you like anything that you heard tonight, you want to tap in, you want to let me know how you feel about tonight's show, please text me 609 200 1098. That is the official 411 podcast reading between the wines hotline. Again, that number is 609 200 1098, the official 411 podcast reading between the wines hotline. Now we're going to go ahead and get into the burning question segment. And again, if you want to chime in on tonight's burning questions, feel free to text me. You may also email me as well, info@laryngaines.com. That is info@laryngaines.com. And you may also DM me on any of my social media platforms. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram, X, YouTube, TikTok, DLive, Twitch, and Dailymotion. Burning questions for tonight is: how much money do we really waste on fast food, snacks, and convenience? And how can shifting that free us physically and financially? So, going through our little, I guess what I can call it, the power hour of just speaking about my personal experience when it comes to the fast food realm, I did the exercise that I spoke about. And I think I did that in 2022 is when I thought that I was doing things great. 2022, I thought that I was really doing something. I had paid off a bunch of debt. I and I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm not going to say too much, but I had paid off a lot of debt. And I thought I was still doing stuff. And then I had one little credit card that was lingering around. Even though I said I paid off a lot of debt, I didn't pay it all off. This is 2022. And I started to see the walls come crashing in. And I'm like, you got to do something about this because this, what was it? Yeah, I'm going to keep it real. It was $10,000 credit card bill. $10,000 credit card bill just would not go down. It just would not. And then I'm thinking to myself, who the F gave me a $10,000 credit card? Who did this? Like, why'd you do this? It just wouldn't go away. And I realized that I was paying like maybe $200 a month in interest. Now, that's just in interest. That's not chopping the bill down. That's about $200 a month in interest. So I had became very frustrated at this moment. This is 2022. This is what sparked me to become the financial coach and I am here today. So I went through and started to figure out how much money I was spending. And when I realized that, wow, you're spending over $200 in interest, and that's not even, doing anything compared to all of the other bills that I had, that was a big portion. And I said, this is craziness. So by me figuring out how much money I was paying in interest, when I started to look at my debt, figuring out what was the highest percentage of debt, it sparked something to make me start to dig into my finances a little bit more. So then I started to look in my finances and figure out where all my money was going. And besides the house, besides the car, besides those things, housing, cars, that's a given. You have to have that. I took those off the table. The next thing that popped up as the number one expense was food. And then I dug a little bit deeper and I realized that I was probably spending anywhere between $20 to $30 a day, not a week, a day, on food in the workplace. Can I tell you that peer pressure is a thing, especially in the workplace? When people are ordering food, people are, in their little groups. You want to feel special. You want to feel connected to this one and that one to the next. And I worked in an office, and these individuals, because I'm not going to say too much, but they will order out every single day. Let me repeat that again in case anybody didn't hear that. These individuals would all get together and order lunch out every single day to all of the fast food and all of the medium food places that you could think of. Every single one was tested and tried. And I was in that workplace for about 2 years. And I realized that, dang, look at all of this money that you were spending on food, just hanging out with these people in the workplace, trying to, get up. This is 2022. So about a year doing that, I said, oh no, we got to fix this. So that sparked me to clean things up even more. And then by the end of 23, I became debt free. I cleaned it all up and stopped. Started that number. Well, that was the first thing, getting rid of that fast food and all of that stuff, and stop that, and really started to look and see how much money I was spending. Taking the money that I was spending every single day on food like that, $20 a day on food. It's $100 a week in the workplace. That could be applied to a credit card bill. And that's exactly what I did, and that's how I got out. Started to do all types of things, sell things, started to go through and figure out what, little jewelry that I no longer wear and this and that, Tim's and all that. I sold all of that stuff and paid that stuff off. So that's just my little story there. But can I say how much money? Only you would know that. But I challenge you, go back to last month. Pull up your bills, pull up your expenses, pull that credit card up, pull that bank statement up, add up all of the food that you have. And then after you add up that, determine if it came from a restaurant, or determine if it came from the grocery store. And then you can start to figure out what's what. But that workplace, depending on what, especially if you work in an office environment where you're sitting down. Oh, trust and believe, after I was ordering all of that food out with those individuals every single day, sitting down, not being active, and I had worked so hard from 2020 to, at that moment, losing weight, getting in shape, I started to feel like crap. And I was like, wow, even though I didn't put on weight, I'm thankful for that. But the way that I felt, and then the attitudes, and then just the whole vibe that you get from eating all that stuff like that, no good. And physically tired, drained. Like now, when I eat food afterwards, I don't get tired where I just want to go to sleep. Some of those places, after we get done eating, now we're tired, sluggish, we don't even want to do anything. I'm thankful that I don't get like that. When I eat my food now, I just eat my food, and then we on to the next thing. I don't sit around and be like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I don't want to do this. Like, I used to do that. Mm. Burning questions. How much money do we really waste on fast food, snacks, and convenience? And how can shifting that free us physically and financially? Now, before we get off of this, snacks, so thankful that I don't have that, but some people might, where they just have to have, these little things here and there. Again, when you add up your expenses and you see, it's going to open your eyes, and you'll be able to, check yourself. But be careful with the convenience part, because if you're doing it from something that makes sense because your schedule is hectic and you can't physically, it just doesn't make sense for you to, cook a meal or this or that. As long as you do it and it makes sense and it works, and you're looking at your expenses on a weekly, on a monthly basis, be careful with the convenience, because it can work for you and it might make sense. Because remember, time is more valuable than money. I just want to put that out there because I'm so on that convenience. For example, and then this is totally off track, and I'm going to get out of here because it's time to go. But people who skip tolls, this is another thing that bothers me. People who skip tolls. I could just like, but I'm not. Like I said, I could, but I'm not. So here you are going to skip the toll, and I'm just going to put it up there. Let's just say a $5 toll. Let's make it a little bit more beefy. $5. You're going to skip a toll and add anywhere between 30 minutes onto your schedule just to save $5. For me, I'm going to pay the $5 and I want to get there immediately and I want nothing to do with it. Another example, you can either pay whatever amount of money it is to get on a plane and fly from the Northeast to Florida. What is it, a 2-hour flight? $200. Sometimes you can get them even cheaper than that if you got a good deal. So it might even be more than that depending on what goes on. But in any case, to get from A to B within 2 hours, or some people say, well, we're going to drive to go ahead and save money. And then how many hours is that? And how can you get that time back? The answer is you can't. And you wasted all of that time in a car driving X, Y, and Z. It's just all a different mindset. This is when it comes to transforming your mind. What can you do to move away from the old negative, just backwards thinking is what I want to say. Backwards thinking. When you know better, you do better. Burning questions. Now, if there is anything that you heard tonight that sparks some sort of interest in you, especially when I speak about the debt-free living aspect, because I'm so passionate about it. I find myself, when I have these conversations, I'm just so animated when I'm explaining certain things, especially when I start to get into the biblical teachings, because of information in the Bible when it comes to how we should conduct ourselves and how we should be living and handling our money and all of that great stuff. A lot of that stuff's in there. I find myself being very passionate and very animated when it comes to the teaching aspect of that, but that's neither here nor there. If there is anything that you heard that sparked some interest when it comes to debt-free living, I focus on debt-free living from 4 different realms: spiritual, mental, physical, and financial. The first part of it, spiritual, is focusing on knowing who you are, knowing who your higher power is. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. Knowing who your higher power is, know thyself. Focus on the spiritual realm first. After that, now we need to focus on the mental aspect. What do we need to do to change the mindset, like what we're speaking about tonight, transforming that mindset, removing the backward thinking, removing whatever you were taught about money, whatever was passed down from ancestors, whatever your parents thought about money, whatever your grandparents, great grandparents. Sometimes we do things just because we saw somebody else do it. We don't know the reason why. We didn't stop to ask why. We didn't question it. Oh, but just because this is what the family tradition is and this is what they've done for so many years, then we're just going to go ahead and keep on doing it. And the only thing that I have to say to that is absolutely not. And I can get into a whole nother thing and we could be here for hours speaking about this, but absolutely not. And that is one of the biggest things when it comes to transforming my mind is when I woke up and I realized that, wow, it is okay, Laren, that you are the only one that thinks like this. It is okay that you are the only one that thinks like this, and what God has for you is for you, and not every single person is going to agree with it. Not everybody's going to cheer for you. Not everyone's going to be on the same page. And at the end of the day, as long as I am following the orders of what my higher power would like me to do, the best of my ability and the best of my knowledge of how I know how to do it, that is absolutely okay. You can change your mindset. Ask me how I know, because I did. Lack, fear, doubt, anxiety, depression around money? Absolutely not. That's what I used to be. No longer today. After we focus on the mental, then we get into the physical. How do we show up in the world? Are we being reckless with our money? Are we spending a whole bunch of money on fast food just because it's there, knowing full well that you can cook your own meals at home? How do you stand up when it comes to peer pressure, when it comes to spending your money? How are you showing up in the physical realm? And then what is that doing and transforming you into? Because if you show up a certain way, you're going to look a certain way, you're going to feel a certain way. So we can transform that physical aspect as well. How are you physically showing up and interacting with money in the physical realm? And then that is going to be a direct reflection of what you look like, how you feel. This is some real deep stuff. And then after that, after we've gone through these different realms, after we've gone through these different phases, after we've gone through these different trainings, now we learn. And then we focus on the financial aspect of it. We focus on wealth building. We focus on legacy. Head on over to LarenGaines.com. This is debt-free living. This is the point where we say, guess what? If I, like Neil Jones said last night, if I can't, and instead of saying we can't afford it, now we say, I choose not to purchase at this time. Not at this moment. Deep. LarenGaines.com. You can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation. And when I say sign up for a free 15-minute consultation, that is so important. That's the first step. Because we need to see if this is going to work. Because I cannot do it for you. You have to want to do it for yourself. And if you have not convinced yourself that you can change, nobody else will. So I can't be Superman in your world if you're not going to pull your own weight. You have to want to do it. So we sit down and we talk and we discuss. Sometimes, and I've had this happen where you want it, but your spouse doesn't. In most cases, I will probably deny the coaching at that moment because unless we're all going to be on the same page, I think it would be a waste of time. I spoke about this the other night because when you say I do, that's the moment where two becomes one. So now if you're focusing on one, but the spouse is focusing on spending late night partying and getting the latest gadgets and this and that, the next the other, what's the point? So we need to have some sort of understanding and make sure that this works. Make sure that this is going to work and this is a good fit. I've had some people that, like we spoke about fast food and coffee and this and that. Well, Laren, I just have to have my cup of coffee. I just have to. I have to walk into work with a cup of coffee so that everybody knows that, I shop at this donut shop. And I'm thinking to myself, you want you are so focused on what somebody else cares about you that you're willing to spend that money just so that someone else can think and feel about you because that cup where they write your little name on it. Y'all know who I'm talking about because they ask you your name and they write your name on that little cup, that is more important than you getting out of debt. This is what I'm talking about. We have to make sure that this is a good fit, that this is going to work. What do you think that end result was? If you're focusing on what somebody else thinks instead of focusing on you and what's important for you, what do you think the end result's going to be? If you are not ready to sign up for the coaching sessions, maybe you just want more information. I think it is very awesome if you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter, Whispers of Wisdom. Head on over to LarenGaines.com. That is awesome, inspirational, debt-free living content delivered to your inbox once a month. Again, all of this information is over on LarenGaines.com. Now, I want to say thank you all for hanging in there with me tonight. Tomorrow night, I will be back. Same place, same time. I have author slash poet. See, I got that one right. Author slash poet Birdman 313 coming in tomorrow night for Wind Down Wednesday. And again, I'm going to be sampling almond berry, the legendary almond berry from Cream Ridge Winery in New Jersey. I had a great experience there this past weekend. They have done some upgrades. They have done some awesome new things with their wines. I've seen so many new bottles of wines that I've never, saw before. New wine tasting experience. So anybody who is close to New Jersey, I would recommend Cream Ridge Winery. Before, it was the small, it's still small, but they've done some expansions, but it was this small little place and sort of like tucked in a corner, but they have done some new things at that winery that makes it a pretty awesome one. So this is part of the Reading Between the Wines tour, but I definitely will continue to make that a stop year after year because they definitely have impressed me. Now, I would say that out of the different wineries that I've had on this tour, that so far that this is my favorite. Cream Ridge definitely has stepped it up. And whoever thought that a small little country type winery like this would leave a lasting impression, but I was absolutely pleased. This was one of the first stops that I was absolutely pleased with. It's been interesting. I had fought bees, damn near getting stung while I'm trying to sample wine. We had one winery that was under construction and it just took away, you used to could look over at the winery and the vineyards and see all of the grapes and stuff. It had so much construction and noise that it just looked like nah. But Cream Ridge Winery was the first one where I had it like a from top to bottom pleasant experience, and we will be sampling their wine live here on the show tomorrow. You get to look at the bottle, you get to see what the color of the wine is, and go through the whole wine tasting experience right here tomorrow at 8 p.m. And then we have author Birdman 313 coming in as well. I want to say thank you all so much for rocking with me. And thank you so much for being part of the Restoration series. And I'll see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful night. Good night.
4, 3, 2, 1. And that's a wrap on today's episode of the 411 podcast and Reading Between the Wines, where growth is always on the menu, and every pour reveals a little more truth. The conversation doesn't end here. Have something to say? Want to weigh in on tonight's burning questions? Text us anytime at the official 411 podcast and Reading Between the Wines hotline at 609-200-1098. Stay plugged in across all social media platforms at Laryngains. We're live and in the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, D Live, Twitch, and Dailymotion. Prefer to listen on the go? The audio version is streaming on most major podcast outlets. Until we meet again, take what you've learned, sip slow, speak truth, and remember, transformation starts within. Powered by the Black Diamond Consultations Network.